So just thought I'd take this view of the house because it shows you the size of the original stone fermette, which is a small farm here. So there is a tower there which you can see, and attached to that there was a small house which obviously has been extended, but I have my little office and writing area up in the top of the tower, and the house has 2-foot thick stone walls. There's a wood burner, there's the chimney, and that little extension cubby hole thing with the brown door there in the centre of the picture is our under the house water cistern. So the drain pipes from the house fill that up. There is 10,000 litre capacity, which is pretty good because we do get drought here in the summer. And there's a heat exchanger there which gives us warm air in the winter if we wish it, and cold air conditioning in the summer if we wish it. Now, last summer the temperatures here for about a week reached 42 degrees. Don't know what that is in old money, but 42 Celsius. And we've got recuperators, water collection points everywhere. Got a couple of IBC containers that have 1,000 litre capacity too. So we're doing our best to be self-sufficient and eco-friendly. So that is the house, and I'll go around the front and show you the front of the house. So this is the view when you drive in our driveway, which as you can see is pretty big. We could probably get about 15 cars in here. Polytunnel to the right, good for bringing on plants early spring, give them a head start. Great storage. Back of the house, and we've got a tiny wooden shed which is a potting shed, which is really a storage shed now, and John's large workshop. So there's 2 stories there, and even though we've only been here 18 months, he's already filled it full of tools and things that will come in handy. That famous phrase that all smallholders use, it will never be thrown away because one day I may use it. We've also got a lean-to for parking, and this is because we get quite violent hailstone storms in the summer, enough to dent your car. And you can see we've got a couple of builder's bags. That one's got sand because he's got to repoint that terrace down at the pool, and these 2 are with gravel, which will fill the bases of the ground mounted solar that we will be putting in later this summer. So we've got a wildflower area here, which is full of poppies and sweet rocket at the moment. Lots of birds, butterflies, bees, other insects. And I'm giving it a try this year and not cutting it at all, and we'll just see how it goes. So bit of lavender at the front, and double gates. Now these are interesting. John made these because we've got to get a tractor in and out, and metal's expensive here. Even though John is a blacksmith, he has bought ready-made gates. So that is a set, and that is a set, and he has bolted them together so that we can open both of these at the same time to have a 6-metre clearance, because the lane's very narrow outside and it's quite tight to turn. The lamps were from elsewhere in the garden, which we have put here, and John has spent his time this week digging trenches for electric cable and wiring them up. So that's a quite nice tidy entrance now, which didn't exist before. So this is our 1-bedroom guest apartment, which we've been renovating over the winter and is now almost ready for our first guests, which are arriving the middle of next month. And I just thought I'd show you a little bit more about what's around here. So this bit goes down into the orchard, and as you can see, we have got a hose out because we've had to regrass this whole area because we had to get a new filter bed put in for our septic tank, because living out in the country we're not on mains drainage. And I had to move some of my very young apple trees because this is part of our orchard. So orchard goes up there, we've got the tiny road going into the village, and the orchard continues up there to the big bushy tree at the back. So there's the back of our gite, and as you can see we have a swimming pool which is empty because we discovered late last year that we had a bit of a leak, and the pool itself is pretty old, so we are refurbishing it, and the new liner is going in a few weeks, hopefully before our first guests arrive. And John has got his work cut out because he's got to relay all these slabs so they're level and then rejoint them. So be interesting to see a follow-up video on that. So that's the back of the orchard there, and we've got a fence separating that off from this 4-acre field which goes round, and that's the reason for the fencing, because I don't want these lovely sheep to go in and eat my apple trees, because they would, wouldn't you? Yes, you would. Right, come on girls, if you're going for a walk. So field's pretty good. It's slightly sloping, which is good for having a bit of water runoff. We do get quite interesting and intense short storms here in the summer, and we also have a bit of woodlands. Our bit is basically from that big dead chestnut tree along the back, and it's about an acre in there, so that's quite good because we use that for pulling out dead trees. Unfortunately the woodland has been neglected for years, so we pull out a lot of dead timber, and we've put a couple of paths in there. The dead timber is for fueling our wood burners because we like to try and be sustainable here, and burning wood when you're a bit isolated and out in the country, don't eat my wellies, is carbon neutral. When the trees are growing, they store the carbon inside them and in the ground, and then obviously when we burn them it's releasing the carbon. But there's plenty of new trees in there, as you can see, lots of green. It's mainly sweet chestnut and acacia and some cherry. We don't really have an awful lot of oak in that, so it's quite nice, and we'll continue around the corner. That is the sheep shed with the wonderful weather vane on top that John made me for a birthday quite a few years ago. And this is the back of our house, which originates in the 16th century and is in the main stone walled. There's a dovecot round the corner which you can't see from here, and this is a tiny wee bit of gated off garden because we have dogs and we don't want them annoying the sheep. And the back of the house faces west, so it's nice to sit in the evening and have a glass or two of homemade wine or cider or beer. So along the hedge line that divides the woods from the field, we have this sadly dead sweet chestnut tree. Now we've been told it's about 200 odd year old, and there was some life on it last spring, but we had an awful drought last summer, and The bit that had some life in it has now succumbed like the rest, and it's just age. We don't think there's any disease, it's just age. And we're just letting it stay here. We're not going to take it down because it's a great habitat for insects and birds, and we have tawny owls that live in the wood, and they come out in an evening and sit here, and the owl from this side shouts and talks to the owl on the other side of the road. So it's quite nice to just sit and listen to the owls. John is considering putting an owl box up in this tree, but to be honest, I don't think he'd get any takers because there's absolutely no greenery on it at all. So it's early morning, it's a beautiful morning, sun is just coming up, sheep are following me around like dogs, and I'm now facing north, so this is the back end of our house, and you can see that there's been a later extension, we think done in the 1970s, and there's a small chimney which you can see there, and that is from the wood burner that we added into our bedroom because this end of the house is quite cold and there is no central heating here. And then next to that I have my kitchen garden, which is surrounded by cypress trees. Not the best thing to plant, but it's raised beds in there, and we are maintaining the soil fertility by adding homemade compost and lots of manure from our little sheep friends. Nothing is wasted here.